Falcons fans, welcome in. It is episode 28 of Out of Your Falcon Mind, Atlanta Falcons fan cast. My name is John. I'm your host, and I am riding solo today. Mike unfortunately lost his phone somewhere in Atlanta, and luckily some dude found it and called him, and or I don't know how he got in touch with him, but anyway, he got in touch with him, and he's on his way to pick up his phone now, so he could not make the our scheduled evening to record. But I'm not by myself. I am joined by Adam, co-host of Around the Block, another awesome Falcons podcast out there in our Falcons community. Adam, what's going on, buddy?
Not much. How are you doing, man? I'm really excited to jump on. I started listening to your work when you said you wanted to come on, and I like your guys' stuff. So positive stuff. So that's my kind of vibe.
Good
Just
deal,
talking
man.
football too.
Yeah.
I can talk to the guys down south. That's my kind of vibe.
Yeah, and if you guys didn't know, Adam's actually in Ontario. He's just outside of Toronto, not too far. So Falcons fan. So we're going to get into that. On the show, we had an email we're going to go through from one of the listeners. And we're going to go through these quarterbacks, man. There's about 6 of them that and who knows we've learned if you've been a Falcons fan, not to really predict anything, because you're probably going to be wrong, but they could take one of these guys, they may not, you never know. But we're gonna get into a little bit of what we think on these quarterbacks, and just overall some thoughts on the Falcons and everything as we get into it. But first off, man, tell us, man, how the hell did you become a Falcons fan up in Canada?
So I was about 8 years old when I watched my first Super Bowl. My first football game ever was the '98 Super Bowl. It's Falcons Broncos.
Wow.
I went to my cousin's house, who's a Cowboys fan. So I could have very closely became a Cowboys fan.
Dodge the bullet.
Yeah, so he invited me to it wasn't even really a Super Bowl party. I was just kind of at his house, and we ordered food, and it was like my first experience to football.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, you gotta pick a team. You gotta, here's a list of the teams." And I didn't even know Atlanta was in the Super Bowl. And I'm like, "Oh, those colors look cool, man. I like that symbol." He's like, "Oh, they're actually playing this Sunday or whenever it was, Saturday or Sunday or whatever." I'm like, "Oh, really?" They're like, "Yeah, they're playing for the championship." They're like, "You can't." He's like, "You can't pick that team." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Obviously, I just picked it. I picked it off the color and the logo. Obviously, I got to pick. I'm 8 years old, dude."
Right.
So yeah, I did that. I watched the Super Bowl obviously that week. Chris Chandler, I watched Jamal Anderson do his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Ray Buchanan was a big guy that I liked. Keith Brooking, I have a love-hate. Later, Keith Brooking made me a little bit upset. Early Keith Brooking was fun.
Yeah.
Patrick Kearney was really that's when I started pushing to that side of the ball, to defense, where I really like watching defense, because those guys. And yeah, I did Terrence Mathis, which is so surreal, because I've actually had a conversation with Terrence Mathis, and he was awesome. One of my favorite players growing up. So that was kind of that was real. I don't know, the way I see it, I'm like a Canadian kid with no real ties to the South.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the South just welcomed me in, and it's been this great experience. I've just been, and then obviously you go through 2001, we drafted the most exciting player to ever hit college football, almost, in Michael Vick. And it was just easy to stay with the course, right? We got this, I went through the ups, the downs with Michael Vick, and then the very downs. And then, we had that really bad season, and then, in pops Matt Ryan. So we get exciting again. First touchdown pass. All right. So now I'm in. So now we're I'm 12 years in at this point, 11 years in. So I might as well stay the course. And then obviously the 2010s were really, really generous to us, I guess I would say. That was probably our most successful run as a franchise, was 2010s-ish to 2018. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't have that backstory like a 66 Falcon like some of these guys, but just know that I appreciate the rich history, and obviously Deion Sanders and stuff like that. But I feel like the South welcomed me in, and I just try to give you guys great content and whatnot.
Yeah, no, definitely. And you do, man. Like if you're a first time listener to this podcast, so Mike and I started this back in October Mike's actually from Washington, D.C., so he grew up there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and like his entire family, except for his mother. His mother's actually, she's from Texas. She's a huge Cowboys fan.
Nice.
And then his father and his brother, they're all Redskins. Or I'm sorry, Commanders, as officially
Commanders. Yeah,
fan.
yeah.
Anyway, he didn't even like the sport of football. And when he was like 9, 10 years old, he was like watching with his father, and he saw the Falcons, and he saw Dion. And
Yeah.
Dion was just like, he's dancing. He's got, there's MC Hammer on the sideline. Like it was obvious. Like he just couldn't believe it. And he was like, damn. So like that's what got him to like the Falcons. And he just like, he jumped in like full, like completely. And he's been, like I was telling you before the show, Mike is the most, and if you listen to the show, he's the most positive Falcons fan. I mean, he's full of energy. He will dog him every now and then. But I mean, and especially a few guys like Dante Fowler, he's not a big Dante guy. So there's a few guys like he really gets on. But he'll try to, he'll try to see the best in everyone until it's like just glaringly damn obvious that there's an issue, so
Gotcha.
yeah, so I love him for it. But anyway, and if you guys want, like I said, you can go back, you can listen to episode 1. That was when we kind of got into like who we are and why we're doing this and everything. And then we a few weeks ago we had DW from the Falcoholic on. We did kind of like a season review. That was really fun time with him. So if you can go back and check that one out.
He's a good dude. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he cracks me up. His Twitter just got me from like day one. Like, cause I'm like, yeah, like, yeah, man, awesome. Like you understand us. Like, it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it's like you said, man, it's been and you mentioned Pat Kearney, man. That might be the last defensive end that we drafted and developed was Pat Kearney.
Yeah. I mean, we were
as sad as that is.
I was the year we traded for John Abraham.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, like this is gonna be Patrick Kearney, John Abraham. This is gonna be fun. And like 2 months later, we traded Kearney, and I was like, man, you have got to be kidding, for like a second round pick. I think that was the pick that we drafted Schaub with.
Yep. You're right. Yeah.
So it was like, I'm just like, man, I just want to see some good defense, and here I am 15, 16 years later, I'm still waiting for that. Some good defense.
Yeah. I mean, we've went through it on the show, man. It's like, it's every year the rankings and the pass, right? We talk about, it's like we have the same conversation every year almost. Can't
fix the left guard. Where's the pass rush? Can we get some more interception? Yeah, it's and like that's the thing. Like I'm such a defensive, like I for obviously people that don't know, I coach defense here in Canada. And just being the upbringing, I played linebacker. I play a little bit of running back too, but I mostly played linebacker, played a little bit of safety. So my heart's always been on the defensive side of the ball.
For sure.
So we've always had like one guy Pro Bowler, he's great. Another guy who's really, really good. So like we've always had the 1-2 pieces that can, they'll give us a little something, but cohesively as a unit, we've just never had it. I think the closest thing was like when Marquand Manuel somehow got a good defense the year that we beat the Rams, the first year, I think 2017. We beat the Rams in the first round. We were supposed to get swamped by them. We played really, really well. We beat them, held Philly to like 16 points and almost beat them. And then it looked like we might have made a Super Bowl push that year too. So we ought to it was so weird. It's like Dontari Poe was like the puzzle piece that was missing that year.
Yeah.
And then we played like really good, and then we just didn't resign him. Like that was, if you see my Twitter feed at all, anybody who's ever listening to that, anytime Dontari Poe comes up, I always just lose my mind, because to me that was like one of the most, like, he literally established his defense and gave Grady Jarrett a running mate. Like why was he not back?
I know.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I know, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's been like just one headache and one like head scratcher after another when it comes to some of the moves, especially when it comes to the pass rush thing, man. And I mean, and then who else did you mention? Pat Kearney. And then, dude, what's funny with Ryan is here in town, I would say probably, and I listen to Sports Talk here in Atlanta, and I mean, dude, probably 60 to 70% easy wanted to draft Glenn Dorsey that year. Like
I was one of those people. I
mean, and I wasn't mad at those folks, because I watched them in the SEC tear it up, and like I saw like hardly anything of Matt Ryan. So I'm like, and plus it's BC. I'm like, what the hell, you know? And so I was kind of like one of those people too. And then all of a sudden, Matt comes, was 11-5 in the first season. And I mean, granted, it helps when you have a really good Michael Turner at the time, and that a
Man,
run game, and like that might have
it's a
been his
really
best
good.
off. Yeah,
It's a good trip down memory lane, man. Michael Turner was like it was he was my running style when I was a running back, was just like
yeah,
smash and bash, just
hmm,
hit the hole, and then whatever happens through the hole happens. And he was
exactly.
just like, I remember like that first game, did he bust off like 200 yards,
Yeah, man, and yeah,
two
absolutely.
220 or something? Like,
220,
oh
yeah,
my,
something like that. Yeah, yeah.
he's got to be a Falcon legend, man. He was one of the good ones. I think he still sticks around and does some PR stuff for them, but
Yeah, yeah. And his
yeah.
I think each quad is at least my waist size. Like, and I mean, like
Oh,
that dude.
you've met him, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him. Yeah, he's yeah, we actually had a Hawks game one time. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that
Yeah.
is so awesome.
Yeah, I don't know how he found pants. Like they're just freaking like ridiculous tree trunk things, man. But really
so
nice guy,
he
man.
so he was AJ Dillon before AJ Dillon.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, what sucked about him, I mean, and nothing he could do about it. It's just his body style and the way that he ran. But as he got older, obviously, like
Yeah.
he got, there's like, I think Mike described him as like a slow bowling ball. Like he just he didn't quite have that oomph to him, anymore. But man, it like
Yeah.
when he was in his prime, like that was a hell of a get for us.
That was a good
But
football, man. That was really good football.
yeah, and we had a nasty offensive line, man. Harvey Dahl and McClure and those guys. I mean, that was kind of misty eyed thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
But
Trip down
so
memory lane.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, before we get on to the quarterbacks, man, what was your, I guess, thoughts, or did you have any expectations going into this last season? Like me personally, like I had zero expectations. I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I knew Arthur Smith, I knew Terry Fontenot. Also knew what kind of roster we were dealing with, what kind of cap situation we had. So I didn't expect a whole hell of a lot. But what about you?
Yeah, I was firm. I think I was stamping like 7-8 wins. I think I was somewhere
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Obviously schedule kind of favored that for us this year.
for sure.
But that being said, there was a lot that I was frustrated about. I don't know, like usage of Richie Grant and stuff like that, just the way the pass rush came together. Obviously, like Dean Pease, nothing Dean Pease can do about that. Like schematically, Barkevius Mingo, he got charged with whatever he got charged with prior to the year, and he was probably going to play a key role for us, where Ade Ogundeji was going to play.
Yep.
Ade was extremely raw coming out, albeit he was pretty good for the first six games of the year, but he kind of hit that rookie wall and
Mm-hmm.
kind of didn't get over it. So hopefully he takes a step next year. But just in general, like the team was just so depleted of talent. And even even on the offensive line side of the things, people were trying to sell me Jalen Mayfield. I'm like, I can't buy this. Like like when I was watching his.
At what point were they trying to sell him to you?
Well, like so I did a deep dive, like obviously if you follow my feed, I deep dive a lot of prospects.
Mm-hmm.
So after the draft, we have our draft class, we have our undrafted free agents. So I ripped through all however many we pick, and I just deep dive, nitpick, and I go through each one. And people were like, if I pulled up the thread on Mayfield, people were ripping me apart for being brutally honest about it. But if you follow my Twitter feed, I'm brutally honest about everything. I don't sugarcoat anything. That's just like, you know what I mean? Like when I was being coached, people would lie to me about the way I was playing, and I didn't get better because of it. Right. So now it brought me to be a brutally honest coach and also a brutally honest evaluator.
Yep.
So I was seeing things like, oh, you're being too hard on Mayfield. He's a tough guy. He does this. He came into the league. He had short arms off the back, so he was coming in as guard. He was never going to unseat Chris Lindstrom. So he was going from the right side of the line to the left side of the line, playing a new position, playing on a new side of the line. So that's completely different. And like, I don't know how good you are with swearing on this podcast, but
you can let it rip, man.
Yeah, one offensive lineman said going from one side of the line to the other side of the line is like wiping your hand with the other hand, with wiping your ass with the other hand after wiping your ass with the other for your whole life. So like, and Jalen Mayfield just never, ever, ever, like he never progressed. Like there was no progression throughout 17 games. He had 17 games and there was zero progression. And he was like Aaron Freeman said the statistic on his Locked On Falcons. Of the guards drafted the last 15 years, he was the worst.
Damn.
So, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's got to be like a mechanical, like something in your head. He had like a schematically good surrounding. Like Arthur Smith's a former O-line guy.
Mm-hmm.
The O-line coach, I always forget his name, from Louisville, who obviously came in. I always forget his name, but he was an outside zone guy, so he was fitting the scheme. So there was no excuse for him to not excel, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Drew Dahlman, he played early in the year,
Yeah.
looked like shit, but he
Mm-hmm.
came in the second half of the year when they were doing that center rotation, and he really stepped up. I thought he was better than Hennessy at some points, and I thought his pass protection was better than Hennessy as well. Who Hennessy as well had one of the worst pass blocking grades in all of football as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, season overall, I just thought there was like you, I didn't have massive expectations. I knew we'd get to about 6, 7, 8 wins. I was frustrated about the product put on the field, and it's just like, we're just letting Jalen Mayfield get killed like week in, week out, which led Matt Ryan to be sacked the most that he's ever been sacked. We thought the O-line was bad last year.
Oh yeah.
It's worse this year.
Mm-hmm.
So like for me, it's just frustrating because either they see something in Mayfield and they want to continue that trend on playing him, or that was literally the best option, and
which is scary.
You know what I mean? Like it's twofold, and it's like, I don't know. I guess I fully. My biggest thing was I knew this was 100% evaluation year. First year is always an evaluation year under a new regime. If it's GM and a new head coach, then things are different. The expectations are different. But completely new regime. Terry Fontenot said it himself. He didn't even know Atlanta before when the Senior Bowl got there, so he didn't even go to the Senior Bowl last year. Yep. So like he's going in. All these things. He said he didn't want to change the scouting staff last year because they were already so deep into the draft process, so he didn't. He obviously made some changes this year. That's what people said. Brought in Kyle Smith last year to spearhead his draft stuff. So I just think last year was a complete evaluation year, which sucks because you can 1 year of Matt Ryan. Yep. Things happen with Calvin Ridley, unfortunately. Cordero Patterson gave us some of the most exciting football we've seen the past couple of years.
Thank God.
And then the development of Kyle Pitts, obviously, like it's hard to ignore how great he's going to be. And so I seeing the players and the growth of AJ Terrell, that was another thing.
That was insane.
Just being like, he took like one of the biggest leaps from year 1 to year 2. And if he takes that year 2 to year 3 leap, where it's supposed to be the biggest year gap when you're coming into the league, that could be scary. Like that could be really, really fun because he's just a freak.
Yeah. I mean, like we talked about that with DW. I was like, I don't think I've seen, especially a corner, go from like pretty good to like what the hell, like just amazing. Like
you're not even throwing on the side of the field, like,
right?
That's how bad it was. Like,
exactly.
He wasn't even being targeted.
No, I know it was crazy. And then I'm like, unfortunately for Moreau, that meant everything was coming his way, so he got dogged. I mean, by a lot all year long.
And our safeties got absolutely roasted all year too.
Yeah.
Like it was that just can't happen this year.
No, not at all. And look, I looked at we've said it too before. Like Tori McElhenney, I think, was her interview with Dean Pease at the end of the year, and she asked him, what do you need for your defense to be successful? And he said, I need guys who can play man, and I need guys who can rush the passer without me having to dial up pressure. So I mean, obviously going into the draft, that's going to be two things. I mean, I think he's going to have a big say in that. For sure. So yeah, and but yeah, I'm with you, man. We roasted Mayfield week in and week out.
Rightfully so too.
Yeah, I mean, inconsistencies of McGarry was pissing me off pretty regular basis. I mean, he was so flashes, and then other times you're just like, what the hell? He didn't even touch the freaking guy, And so it was just, that was frustrating. But like you said, I mean, you would hope to see a little bit of progression at some point through if you're going to play all 17 games. And like I even asked, DW, I'm like, man, you typically don't see a coach or a GM draft somebody, play them, and then immediately move on from them the second year. Like they don't normally admit that quickly that shit, we were wrong on that one.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, what do you think? And he's like, he didn't really think, they were going to just say, okay, you're done. He thought his best guess at the time, at least, was they're going to bring in a veteran guard to, if nothing else, push him or compete with him, probably take the job. Who knows what? But I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. Like you said, it just can't happen again, especially with Matt back there. I mean, we all know Matt's mobility. I mean, Matt's got good footwork in the pocket, but he can't run outside the pocket. So I mean, if you're going to have Matt play quarterback, you're going to have to get a line that can protect him. And
I think that was probably for the people that were brutally honest in the evaluation of the team at that point and going into camp. I think that was one of the most frustrating things for us, is because you knew you had a pocket quarterback.
Yeah.
And two-thirds of your interior line were in shambles.
Right.
Obviously Alex Mack wasn't going to be here. You wanted to move on and compete for a championship, which is fine. But how do you just hand a guy who had anchor issues in Hennessy and who was just getting absolutely dog walked last year when he played, how do you just hand him the keys to center? And then how do you, a developmental player in Mayfield, who obviously probably at some point should have been benched in the year, but we just didn't have the horses to get him on the bench, right?
Right.
How do you go into the season with 2/3 of that equation lacking sorely, like big time, right? So yeah, I'm probably under the same wavelength as DW. Like they definitely got to get a vet in here. I would not be shocked if they doubled down and just went, we'll get a guy to compete with Mayfield at left guard, but we're going to get a center like James Daniels, a Ben Jones, who obviously worked with Arthur Smith in Tennessee, because that's very important. And Matt Hennessy is just so bad in pass protection. Like it was so weird because this is my love. I'm not going to go on this PFF rant now, but it's my love-hate relationship with him.
I think
he had some games he had like an 88 grade.
Yeah.
But he had like a 30 grade on pass protection, like a 92 grade on run protection. Somehow that equaled out to 88. And then he was one of the top 15 centers in football. I'm just like, somebody needs to explain this to me because I don't get it.
No,
just because you're good in one area, it doesn't make you a complete player. You know what I mean? It doesn't make you a complete player. So yeah, I think they got some work to do on that O line. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm like I said, knowing that, I guess a good and bad. Well, we've got so many holes to fill. I mean, but this draft is pretty full of tackles and pretty full of guards if we wanted to go that direction at some point. But anyway, that kind of leads us into this email from a listener that we got, and I will read this probably from Mike when he's here next week as well. All right, so he said, "Hey guys, putting you on the spot. What would you do with Ryan, and who are we taking at number 8? Finally, do you see us taking a day two QB? Love the show, boys. Bryce." Thanks, Bryce. Appreciate the email. Man, that's a lot to so what would you do with Ryan?
You want to take it away first?
Yeah, I can. So, I mean, I kind of posed this question on Twitter, leading into this show, and I got a few responses saying, one was like, trade him to a contender. One was like, no, let's ride with him, and draft an offensive line that's better than what we have. So I guess a couple of things. You can't ignore the fact that he's the wrong side of 35, right? I mean, that's just it is what it is. You can't ignore the fact that his has $48 million next year. So we're either going to have to pay him that or extend him. That's the other option. Or we do a post June 1st trade and we save around $24 million if we have a trade partner. So those are all the options that are on the table. I mean, that's just we talked about before the show. It's a loaded question, man. It's just like there's so many variables to it that it's hard to. I mean, and if I think what they're going to do is he probably, I don't know. I mean, like I was listening to Locked On Falcons today with Aaron and Jeff Schultz was on from The
Schultz.
Athletic. Did you
Yeah.
listen to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
was talking me. So I was doing a spaces on Twitter, and I said to Aaron, I said, man, every time Schultz comes on, you gotta always talk about QB. Like literally every single time.
yeah, right.
It's like, man, he always brings it there. I'm just like, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, I know. And so he thinks they're leaning toward extending him to free up more space. And you know, and then that doesn't mean that you extend him, you still can't trade him at some point. It just means they free up more space to do something now. So yeah, I mean I mean it could be what they do. I mean, as far as immediately, I mean, yeah, we got to have next year, like we just talked about, you're going to have to upgrade the offensive line and those interior positions, because I mean, if Ryan's getting pressure up the middle, it's going to be a lot of the same as it was this year. It's not going to be a whole lot different. So I mean, regardless, I mean, we should hopefully, cross our fingers, have a few more weapons than we had this year to complement Pitts, you know, an actual true number one, hopefully wide receiver, whether it's Ridley, whether he's back, or whether we draft one, who knows what. You know, hopefully have a running game that's a little bit better than it was this year. So yeah, hopefully all those things are improved. But yeah, I'll definitely see Ryan here next year, possibly into 23. I mean, I think it's less likely in 20. I'm sorry, less likely in 23, just because the cap hit then I think is only maybe $15 or so million. If it's moved and everything, I think it's a lot less if we trade them than it would be next year. So we still have dead money, but I mean, it wouldn't hurt as bad as it would, you know, this coming season for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm probably right there with you. I think I would be hard pressed. I don't want to say anything, but from what I know from people I've talked to, they think he's going to play out his contract at the very least with Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not going to be playing under $48 million this year. I can guarantee you that right now.
Right.
Falcons have way too many holes. He's worth money, but he's not worth like $48 million. Patrick Mahomes not even making that. Patrick Mahomes did sign that extension, but most of his was like signing bonus. So his like year per year thing is like more around 41 million. So if Mahomes is not getting that, nobody should be getting it. Like that's that's my personal opinion, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, Josh Allen's not even there too. So it's the same thing. And those guys are the trucks of the league, in my opinion. At least, right?
I mean, you can't watch that game last weekend and not think that. I mean, that was insane.
That's what I mean. That's why what I did this year is I became more of a fan of the NFL more than anything, and it probably saved my mind because it was just so much fun. I said, and I truly mean this, I really feel like this year is one of the most exciting years of it in the NFL. And I would even say college football, because like Georgia won it. Like nobody's, you know what I mean? Georgia was always favorite, but nobody thought they were going to knock out Bama. And, the NFL, like Bengals and Rams were favored to be in the Super Bowl. I'll give them that. But they went like such a different route. 49ers gave them a good punch. And then the Bengals just being like this, they caught lightning in a bottle. They proved everybody wrong with their draft pick, that they should have drafted Penei Sewell, and they went the other way, drafted the big threat, and now they're in the Super Bowl. So now it's like it's been fun as hell. But I'll get away from that. I think Matt Ryan will be here for at least 2 more years, like 100%. But at that point, you're gonna make me talk about mobile quarterbacks. I think that was your pitch to me. Hey, I know you like mobile quarterbacks, so here, come get gashed on my podcast. No, but
no, dude, it's cool because I mean, I'm with you. Yeah.
But that's the way the league's going. Like, to be honest with you, I get into these arguments all the time. That's what probably led you to having me. Like, my arguments are like they're foolproof. And I've said, somebody show me a quarterback that's a pocket quarterback that's been drafted the last 12 years has had success in the NFL. It doesn't happen. What's happening is those pocket guys that know coverages inside and out, that can get the ball out quicker because they can dictate coverages better. Those breeds are dying, and those guys that are coming off platform and doing crazy things, doing sidearms, changing arm angles, those are the guys that can pick up first downs with their legs, threaten you with getting outside the pocket. Like that's the wave that we're going in the NFL. So like Ben Roethlisberger retired, now Tom Brady retired, Drew Brees retired. That style of quarterback is going out. It's the old model. It's like the tube TVs.
Yeah.
They were great. Tube TVs were great, but now these big flat screen TVs, they're coming in and they're great, and that's what mobile quarterbacks are. Anytime you're playing, like Dean Pease has said this, Jalen Hurts when we play Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen when we play Josh Allen, and this guy's not even as mobile. He's probably Joe Burrow mobile, but
Yeah.
Sam Darnold like absolutely gashed us the first time we played him.
Yeah.
And he's not even like that, right? Like that's not even his game. But he's got a little bit of wiggle, so he made it work. But Dean Pease, one of the best defensive coordinators, comes from one of the best coaching trees that ever happened in Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. He even said they're one of the most complicated quarterbacks to go against because you can't play certain coverages. Like you can't, like, how can you play man coverage to have all your corners backs to the quarterback and then everything's great. The coverage is great. We got everybody covered, but then he's gone for 25 yards down the left sideline because, that's how we cleared it out.
Exactly.
So I think eventually you got to get there. Arthur knows it. Like, that's the thing. Arthur had Marcus Mariota and Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill can run. And if you looked at the stuff that he was doing in Tennessee, like the bootlegs, there were built-in runs attached to those bootlegs. So if teams were in man coverage and they bootlegged out, he would scamper off. Yep. Like he knows how to use the mobile quarterbacks. That's why so many of us last year were like, oh my God, look at Justin Fields. Like you could see similarities in Ryan Tannehill and Justin Fields games, or even Mac Jones. Like Mac Jones, same thing. You could see similarities in Mac Jones and Ryan Tannehill, just because they were good on those intermediate throws and they could scoot out the pocket. So that's why so many of us were like, hey, we need one of these young guys and we need to start building around him. They opted to go the Patrick Mahomes route where they had Alex Smith, who's Matt Ryan, and build the team around him. So like we're just hoping that that's what it is. And then Matt Ryan's here for a good 2 years. We could try to make something work with him. But I think people look at my feed and they're like, oh, you hate Matt Ryan. I love Matt Ryan. I have Matt Ryan jerseys coming out the wazoo for the last 14 years. You know what I mean? I got t-shirts with his shirt. You know what I mean? I got all that stuff. The thing is, I don't want to see Matt Ryan dead in 2 years. And it's bluntly clear that we don't want to protect him. Like, man. We haven't done it consistently for 13 years. We haven't. There was like a 2-year span where he's been protected at a good point, and he was cooking those 2 years.
Exactly.
So at some point, you got to say, hey, you know what? Like if I'm Matt Ryan and we go into the season with Jalen Mayfield as my left guard, I'm saying, you know what? I need to trade because I can't do this again. 225 hits, this is crazy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like at some point, Matt Ryan, like that's the thing. A lot of guys I talk to, like we really don't feel like Matt Ryan's an against the grain kind of guy. Like he's not going to be like, hey, I need this, but he really should be. Like I know Aaron Rodgers gets a bad rap for that, but he says like, I need this, give me this, I need that, give me that. So like I kind of would want that input from my quarterback, right? The guy that's supposed to, like, he plays the most important position in football. He should have some input on how the offense is built around him, right? Yeah. So yeah, like it's not even that. I just want what's best for Matt, and I honestly think ultimately going to a complete team, like say this year, say the Browns came calling and said, hey, we'll give you 2 first-round picks for Matt Ryan. I know that's not happening, but they got such a good foundation there. Yep. Their O-line set. They got a good running game. He has familiarity with Austin Hooper. The receivers are pretty good. Like, why would you not plug that in, right? Like he could make that work and take that team deep into the playoffs. But I just think, like for Matt Ryan, I think he'll be here the 2 years. But like if we sign him to an extension, people are going to be celebrating in the streets. Oh my God, he's going to be here for 4 or 5 years. I can guarantee you it's probably like a 2-year max thing, and then they're going to ship that contract out. Yeah,
no, I agree. And it's funny, we talked about this a few weeks ago, and I came to the conclusion that there's different groups of Matt Ryan fans, right? So there's
I'd love to hear this too.
There's the unequivocal love for him, like he is going to be our quarterback till he dies. He's going to there's nothing wrong with them. That's 100% support. There is the group that you and I are in that is like, we love the hell out of him and have for a long time, but we can still see kind of like the big picture here and understand what's going on. And like you just said, if you're going to have a pocket passer, which Matt clearly is and has been, and to do what he's done with the offensive lines he's had is pretty damn impressive.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I mean, if you just look at Brady last week. I mean, when he has a few offensive linemen that are hurt and he's under pressure and his there's no Antonio Brown, there's no Chris Godwin. I mean, he looked kind of just like, meh. I mean, it was,
he looked ordinary, which is rare. Right?
So, I mean, and I'm not comparing the two. I'm not going down that road. But I mean, you can't expect Ryan to have the success of a mobile quarterback when he's not a mobile quarterback and when he doesn't have a line to protect him. So yeah, you've got to build up the line if you want Ryan to be around. And anyway, the other version of fans, and then there is a version of this that just flat out can't stand Ryan for what, and I can't figure this. Like, these are the folks I can't figure out at all, but they exist because they're there on Twitter. They're here in the city. I hear them on the radio. They believe that the stats are just their stats are blah. That doesn't mean shit. And a lot of it's been like even since he was drafted. It's like that part I don't get. But like but anyway, I think there's three distinct versions of Matt Ryan fans. And I mean, like I said, I think if you're in the middle, I think that's where you probably should be, because I mean everybody's right to have their own opinion. But like you said, I mean, I want him to go out. I mean, number one, alive and in good health, and
not in crutches.
Yeah, right. And but I would love to see him have some success. I mean, like going wherever we just saw it with Brady going to Tampa, we saw it with Stafford going to the Rams. I mean, like it's not.
That's fun. That's right. Fun. Rams Stafford's been fun.
Hell yeah. So
but that's what I mean. Like it can I'm gonna be bluntly honest. I am. I don't see it here. I don't see him winning the Super Bowl here.
Neither.
I think he can win a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think it's here. I think like this team is so talent depleted. Like we're gonna fix probably 1 to 2 groups this year. I'm having a feeling that it's edge and receivers a little bit. I don't know why. That's where I'm leaning, edge and receivers. So like what I mean. Those are 2 groups of probably we'll say 5 other groups that need major overhauls. And that realistically, like you look at all the things, I know the Falcaholic does a great job of breaking down the cap and figuring out. I'm terrible with numbers, so that's why I lean on those kind of guys.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah.
I think they said we could free up probably around $40 million without like doing anything too crazy. That's like trading Deion Jones or doing all those things.
Yeah, Deion's hits like 20 million. So you gotta do something about that. Yeah.
I got into another argument about Deion too. He's just not my kind of linebacker. So I like Mikel, but
I mean, if you had eyes and watched this year, I mean, like
he just mails it in too much, and like people are trying to attribute that to an injury, and it's just like, don't play. Like if you're injured, don't play. Like Mikel Walker wants to play football. You can tell he's he's busting his ass.
It's a difference.
So I don't know. They said that we could free up $40 million. We only have 29 players under contract. So we probably get 1 or 2 decent guys. I'm really keen on a safety. I want a good safety back there to help groom Richie Grant, and second off, just give us good safety play. I love watching good safety play. And then maybe get a decent O lineman to help out there. But then we're probably going to be right in that same boat where we're just adding 1-year contracts, and then our rookies are going to get a ton of play again. And then we're going to hope that Taquan Graham and Ade Ogundeji and Drew Dalman and Richie Grant and all those guys, they take that next level in their development and they become key cogs for us, or at least be something in the rotation that can be a cog at some point, you know what I mean? Like a 4th or 5th guy in the rotation, rather than, being flexed into being the one guy and really struggling like Ade Ogundeji ended up doing. And it's unfortunate because he looks like he's got, some good traits to him and can be a decent player for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like we can't do Steven Means again every weekend. And I know he did a job. He did a job and everything, but I mean, we can't be doing that.
Aaron tries to sell me Steven Means every time we talk, and I'm just like, Aaron, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
No,
Like,
yeah, no, I know. And he said, let's see, the second part of his question, Bryce's question was, who are we taking at 8? We'll get into that. I mean, who am I taking at 8? I mean, I keep going back and forth, man. I was edge rush first, and I was like, no, the edge rushers are so deep this year. We can find, we can get a good guy day 2, and I was like, yeah. Then I was like, I'm all about best player because God knows, like I said, we have holes. So, I mean, if by chance Kyle Hamilton is there, I'd please take him. If by chance, if he's off the board, and Stingley or and Troy was on the show last week, and he went through the cornerbacks, and Stingley has a little bit of the injury history that kind of worries you a little bit with the foot and the ankle. But if Gardner's there, like I don't, at this to me, like there's your main guys, there's your Hutchinsons, there's your Thibodeaux. I mean, I guess probably Karlaftis comes after him. Those two probably, I guess. I mean, Ojabo's up there. So it's, I don't know. I mean, we may not draft. They may trade back. I mean, I don't, it's, I mean, I don't think there's a wrong answer to be honest, unless it's, just something way off the wall.
They would really have to mess this one up. I think they're in a decent spot where they could trade back. Terry doesn't like. I mean, he's a BPA guy. Yeah. So usually BPA guys are kind of like they're gonna stick and pick kind of players. But yeah, you mentioned a lot of good guys. Obviously Kyle Hamilton, if he's there, would be slam dunk. I understand like that whole like positional value thing, but if you look at it, like the one person that values safety play is Dean Pease. So I guess that would work in our favor. We just have to hope 7 teams in front of us are stupid enough to let him drop. But exactly. Like same breath, like Derwin James dropped to 17 in his draft, and Derwin James is a freak. Like he had no business dropping that far. So I mean, it could happen, and I would gladly take that. George Karlaftis he's an intriguing guy. I think we like 3-man fronts. We play a lot of 3-man fronts and drop 8 a good amount of times. So I don't know if he works too well in that front. But yeah, I guess in nickel he could work. But there's a guy right now who's catching top 10 hype at the Senior Bowl, and it's Jermaine Johnson. Yeah. Florida Georgia kid. Did I just say no? Former Georgia kid. Yeah. I thought I said Florida Georgia line for some reason. I was like, did I just say that on this? Former Georgia kid, went to FSU, absolutely balled out, and been absolutely, like they said, the last time our players dominated like this was Aaron Donald. So that has Jermaine Johnson was a guy that I absolutely loved coming into the process, but most people had him about late first, early second kind of guy.
Yeah, he shot up. Yeah.
He is absolutely destroying like everything. Like Trevor Penning, he's supposed to be a top 20 pick in this draft, offense tackle. Can't even get hands on Jermaine Johnson. That's how active he's been. So he's a guy. He's a sneaky guy that I'd watch. Oh, he's rocked up too. Like dude's an absolute missile. Yeah. He's a guy that I'd watch. David Ajabo's a freak. He fits the scheme so well. He can be that jack rusher where he can either drop back, play some pass coverage, or he can get after the QB a little bit. I know people are not going to like this first part of that but that's what that rusher does for Dean Pease. He's a Swiss Army knife, does a little bit of everything for them. But a guy I love, Sauce Gardner. He kind of does everything for Cincy. Lines up in the slot, lines up outside, line up even at safety a couple times. Like physical player, wants to get in your face, wants to let you know that he shut you down. So he's kind of my vibe too. And obviously, like I won't take offense tackle off the table too. If some reason Ikwanu falls, the NC State kid, I don't see him falling. Like apparently he's like 800 to 1 odds now to go first overall. So it looks like he's actually jumped Evan Neal, which is so crazy. And for whatever reason Evan Neal fell, I'd be all over that as well. True. You know what I mean? So like you said, there's a multitude of ways that we could go with this thing, and I'd be okay with it. We'd really like even I'll even say like Treylon Burks, the receiver. Like you look at it schematically, like comparison wise, like he's AJ Brown. Who drafted AJ Brown? Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
Who loves running crossers, mesh, and deep balls? Arthur Smith. So
Yeah.
like schematically, it makes sense. So all I'm saying, and I've said this the whole time through the draft process, and I know it's early, just hit on the pick. I don't care who it is. Just make sure that player is going to be here, signing his next contract in 5 years.
Yeah.
That's all I want, right?
Yeah, we can't
and I think
we can't do Vic Beasley again or something like that. No.
can't do misses, right? Like
No.
if you miss on a top 10 pick, you know, there's a hole in your boat. You can't get the water out quick enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man.
So,
yeah. I mean, it's like, and we were on the last show, like I went through, it was pretty funny because when we're getting in these quarterbacks now, I mean, obviously neither one of us are pro scouts, but I mean, you're a coach, you've watched football your entire life.
Yep.
I've watched football for 30 years. So, and I mean, I read off last week, TJ Watt's, his negatives going, like his scouting report negatives, which was hilarious. These are coming from pro scouts, and I mean, like dude said should be a starter within a couple of years, and like, I mean, like
absolutely dominated out of the gate.
I mean, just like, and I mean, like narrow hips doesn't convert speed to power was one of his. I'm like, what do you? And so like some of these guys are paid to do it. So, I mean, it is what it is. And then in the same sense, I was looking at, because I was curious, looked at Vic Beasley's report as well. And dude, it was like, get stuck in one move, accurate. Cannot convert speed to power at all, accurate. Very few of them were like, does not have alpha dog mentality, super accurate.
Super accurate.
And then, so like all that stuff led me to like, so if I'm the guys, I'm like, those are the things that worry me. If I'm looking at the end, like I want an alpha dog, I need an angry, just pissed off guy like Jermaine. Like if you guys haven't seen some of the videos from Jermaine Johnson this week at the Senior Bowl,
that like rep versus Darian Kennard,
my God,
that last one where they're like, best on best, and Kennard didn't even have a shot in hell. No. And Jermaine Johnson, he got up, he said, "Stop playing with me, man. Stop playing with me." I'm like, man, I'm ready. I said jokingly yesterday, I was like, I'll take him at 8. I'll take him at 8 right now. Yeah, I know. And then it comes out today that teams are like, this guy could jump to the top 10. I'm like, okay, maybe I will take him at, like, honest to God, like, that's what I mean. Like, I'm firmly in that like dog mentality. Like, you need to, like, if I'm picking you and you're going to be a cornerstone of my team, you need to want to run through a guy's face.
100%.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that goes back to Aaron Donald when he came through. Like, he's cut from that same cloth. He doesn't take shit from nobody. He's gonna choke you out if he's got it. He's gonna take you by your helmet. The most Aaron Donald clip was when he put his helmet back on after a game to go confront an offensive lineman and said, like, you know what I mean? Like, those kind of guys want to smoke, and like Jermaine Johnson's cut from that cloth. Like, he wants all of it. Like, if you want whatever you want to do, he's coming at you.
Yep.
And when he, like, Darian Kennard's 6'6", I think, and he's 330 pounds. Jermaine Johnson bull rushed him to the point that Kennard did a backflip.
Dude,
like,
it was hilarious.
That should have been mic drop right there.
Yeah, I mean, it was. So y'all need to check that out because you'll be.
Maybe I just sold myself on Jermaine Johnson. Maybe I'm gonna.
You know what? I just watched the videos or watched film on these guys over the last few weeks before we ran into. I mean, we could do shit with as many edge rushers as there are. We could do probably 3 or 4 shows on just edge rushers. But I mean,
for sure.
I mean, watching his clips. I mean, looks like a smart player. I mean, like he understood, like, on runs, like he wasn't getting beat, didn't look. I mean, I didn't see, like, nothing jumped off the page at me like is jumping off the page at me this week. Like, I mean, he was he had a really good season this year. I think he had 12 sacks. But it was like this Senior Bowl is like he just ramped it up on a notch and was like, okay, this was a good year, but y'all haven't really seen me yet. And like, he's just putting it out there. So yeah, who knows, man? I mean, like that's what's cool about this though, because you can see that. I mean, the guys at this process and see what they're really made of, and what they're going to be. And to me, like I said last week on the show, like for those especially the edge rusher position, like those interview, the whether it's at the combine or wherever they do the player interviews, like that to me. Like that's where I'm learning what this guy's all about, and that's like that's going to be a telltale whether I'm going to take this dude or not. Whether he's got that dog in him. Sure. So, but yeah. So anyway, man, just jumping into some of the quarterbacks, and that kind of just goes on with Bryce's last question: do we take a quarterback on day 2? Um, yeah, obviously this class is not what it was last year.
Mhm.
I mean, there's not the clear, just amazing quarterback. Like I've
Alpha quarterback.
yeah, there's not one of those guys. I mean, like I think PFF's tough. Big board. I think the highest one they have. It's funny actually. They had Sam Howell, I think, as their highest rated one on their big board, and then like Daniel Jeremiah had, I think, Kenny Pickett at maybe 18,
Mhm.
and Howell was around 20, 22, something like that. So yeah, it's not exactly like studs like you would just picture QB
Consensus.
studs.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's
So
that's a big thing too. If you were to ask, if you were just handpick 10 scouts from the NFL and ask them their QB rankings, it would all be different. I can guarantee
it
you right
would,
now.
yeah, absolutely.
Because there's just no consensus, and there's got like all these guys need to be developed. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and it's what's funny is what we were just talking about. Five of the six guys we're going to talk about, I mean, they're all mobile quarterbacks except for one.
Yeah.
And not shitting on the pocket passes. That's just it is what it is. This is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'll talk about the pocket passer first. Carson Strong, out of Nevada, 6'4", 215, had a good year, 4,186 yards, 36 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 70% completion percentage. He had 51 rush attempts for negative 208 yards. So he did not
Jeez.
do a lot of good. I mean,
Been
granted,
sacked a little bit there.
got sacked a little
Yeah.
bit, yeah. But no, dude has a big arm. Like watching him, he's got a knee injury that he had in I think his senior year in high school. That could be like a lingering thing throughout his career, which
Yeah, I think it got flagged at the Senior Bowl. I'm pretty sure
right.
it did.
Yeah. So the medical for him is going to be big. But just watching what I watched on him, I watched him against Cal. Yeah, definitely strong arm, smart. He does a lot of pre-snap reads. He's not, he was asked to do a lot of pre-snap reads. He only had the one offer actually coming out of high school. That was for Nevada, but a lot of it was due to the injury that he had.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's a guy that I don't like. I hate being like down on just the pocket guys saying they can't, because they can be successful. It's just going back to that, they have to there's less margin of error.
That's the point. That's a good point.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, like you've got to have your pieces all in place, because whereas like and just getting into it, I don't know if you had anything on Carson or not. I don't think that's going to be somebody for us. I mean, that's personally, I don't think that's somebody we take, but
Yeah, I think the only thing I'd say about Carson that's super interesting to me, when I was watching Cam Thomas. That's who I was watching from SDSU. If you watch, like, I didn't know this going into that game, but I was asking somebody that I know that scouts actually in the NFL, and I was saying, like, does he have control of this offense? He said, yeah, man, like he calls audibles, he's flipped plays, he does it all on himself.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, well, that's intriguing. He's like, yeah, like that's why scouts like him, but they're scared about that knee. So obviously between the head, really good. He just doesn't got that lower half where he's able to, extend plays, get out, change his arm angle. But he does, like, when he's able to load it, cock it, and throw it, it looks pretty. But like you said, like he's just like you said, if he ends up in a perfect situation, like Tampa Bay takes him to try to be the heir to Tom Brady, or Pittsburgh, maybe, like Pittsburgh's offense line's getting a little bit. Yeah, I could see him in that situation where he's got a decent run game. He's got some receivers that are good on contested catches. Like, yeah, 100%. Like let's roll with that. But in a system like this, like in 2 years, like are we gonna be that? Probably not.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, like a lot's got to go right for it to work for him. And I just think, I just don't think, like, I don't think Arthur's going to want that, but I like the player. He's a fit. I'll say that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, I did, the film I watched in the Cal game, especially when he's under pressure. I mean, it's kind of like watching Matt run. I mean, like it's pretty painful. I mean, like he'll take off, and it's, kind of like his feet are in sand, and I mean, it's not a pretty sight. So, it's like you said, I mean, he'll have to be in a good situation, but whereas like on the flip side, going into Sam Howell, you at North Carolina, 6'1", 220 pounds, just over 3,000 yards this year, 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. 62% completion percentage. Where he really made a huge jump this year was his running. And it was honestly, his offensive line was shit this year. I mean, like watching those games, like it was like he was running for his life because he had to possibly a lot, but there were some design runs, but he had 183 rushing attempts for 828 yards and 11 touchdowns on the ground as compared to 146 yards in his previous season. So he's been compared a lot to Baker Mayfield. I can kind of see it build wise and everything like that. But I mean, tough SOB, man. Not afraid to take a hit. I mean, doesn't have like an elite arm, but he's pretty strong arm. I mean, he's accurate.
Yeah, you can put it on. Yeah,
yeah, he's accurate. I think some of the things I saw, like I could see watching him, sometimes he would kind of get stuck on his primary read, like a lot of young guys do, especially in college. Yeah. And they won't come off. I know sometimes, but I think in a lot of it too, the red zone make some risky-ish decisions sometimes, which I think he was maybe just trying to do a little bit too much than he probably should have. But yeah, I mean, somebody like that, I mean, any of these other guys I could see us possibly taking. I don't know about, to me, I don't know if, I mean, we didn't actually say yet. I mean, would you take one of these guys on day 2, or would you wait till next year and see what happens?
So I'll pipe in on how I thought the one thing that was most intriguing about how he lost literally his whole offensive arsenal this past year. Yeah. So not a lot of people they're probably not gonna make excuses for him, but I thought it brought a different element in how something that I didn't know he had. It brought out that running element to him. And that probably in the eyes of the NFL probably helps him for sure. Because he didn't really show that part of his game last year when he had all the tools, but he was a really good point guard in that system. He was able to distribute the ball properly. And on time, he had some really good throws. The running game was working really well for him. So he looked really good when everything was perfect around him. He struggled when he had, he didn't have the chemistry with the guys this year. So he had to go off script a lot, where he had to run and extend plays on his own. So I feel like so Sam Howell, I'm going to say right now, is probably 1A to Malik Willis is 1B for me. Just because I feel like he showed growth. If that makes sense, he showed growth in his own personal game.
Even without the talent around him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What I mean? So he was able to make it work off script, where I don't know if people will value that, but for me, I do value that, because everybody can make everything. Like, when everything's perfect, you can make it work. Most people can make it work. When everything's not perfect and things look bad, that's when you're gonna see your doubters, and you're gonna see all the doubt and all that stuff. And Howell, I thought Howell played okay. He had inconsistencies with his ball placement this year. But that it could be a multitude of things that's not just Sam Howell. So I think in the long run, I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Howell was the best quarterback from this group, 100%. And Malik Willis. So my learning point, what turned me to mobile quarterbacks, was Josh Rosen, Josh Allen. I was so sure Josh Rosen was going to be the next Matt Ryan. I was like 100%. Yeah. Like that's Matt Ryan. Guy can call plays at the line. He's smart as hell. He can put it on you. He doesn't have good arm strength, but he doesn't need to because his ball placement's great. Yeah. And then I met Josh Allen 2 years later, and I ate a massive piece of humble pie, because I was so sure Josh Allen was going to bust, because he couldn't hit the wide side of a fucking barn with a ball at some point. Like, he was so inaccurate. And I don't know if that attests to his quarterback coach, or if it was Brian Dable. Whoever developed that kid needs a head coaching job today. And if it was Dable, he got it. So we'll see.
Yeah, sure did. Yeah.
But Josh Allen had all the raw tools, and the 2 raw tools that you need to be good in this league is a big arm and ability to make things happen when everything goes to shit around you. Malik Willis does that in bunches. So if I'm betting on anybody in this class, he's a freak athlete, and he can throw the ball. I would bet you he could throw the ball 75 yards. I would not doubt that. Yeah, like he's got an absolute rocket of an arm. So if I'm betting on anybody to develop, like specifically in this situation, I'd probably bet on Malik and then to get Matt Ryan to develop him between the years. That sounds like good to me. So,
Yeah.
so those two, I liked Coral. We went back. So I'm not a huge QB guy, but obviously I understand where we are as a franchise. So
Right.
I know I actually have to touch base on these guys. I was a huge Coral guy. Loved his game. I think he's too skinny for the NFL. I thought this was Zach Wilson too. I think Zach Wilson's going to get banged around a little bit too much. The thing with Zach Wilson is he plays I call it fuck it ball because he doesn't care. Like he just goes, like he lets that thing sling. It's Brett Favre, man. If you want Brett Favre going up, you just like he said, you know what? If I throw 4 touchdowns today, great. If I throw 4 interceptions, great. Whatever. I'm having fun. And that's what Zach Wilson plays. So I respect it. I love it. Yeah. So if he can get like everything good around him, and he just plays fucking ball his whole career, it's going to be a good time. I'm not sure if the New York media is going to like it. I'm going to love it though because it's going to be a great time, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he plays a little bit. He plays a little bit like that. So Coral, I think he just suffered that injury too. So obviously there's going to be some concerns there as well. But yeah, he's a guy like ultimately second round. Yeah, like. I'll say this: you could talk me into drafting one of those two in the second round.
Yeah,
would I do it? Like if I'm Terry Fontenot today, I would not even entertain a second round quarterback. Right. If Malik Willis fell to the third round, I'd be all over that. Like that to me that's far enough. I came into it. I'm not taking it round 1 because nobody's worried of that. Second round, thinking of it depending on how D-line, O-line, corners, linebackers fall. I'm thinking about it, but it's not really a thought. Third round. All right, now we get into developmental guys for the future. Malik Willis really fits that bill. Somebody's gonna gamble on Malik at some point. Like know what I mean? Somebody's gonna do it. Maybe second round. I could not see first round unless maybe Washington falls in love with him. But I also heard a rumor that they're gonna swing big for a vet. So I don't know. Pickett's fun too. But he's really struggling. Those small hands are really today
especially with the raining
because it rained down there today.
Yeah.
And it really showed why those small hands are going to be a struggle for him. It's funny, I got small hands too, so I can't really get on too much. Yeah. So, but I'm not trying to be an NFL
exactly, not playing QB. Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and real quick on Hal, man, I watched the Notre Dame game. And he's the only reason that they were in that game. I mean, like the only reason. I mean, he was tough.
You said it too, right? Tough.
Dude, I mean, he was running for his ass the entire game. And I mean, it was, there was time it looked like Matt this year. I mean, 3 steps, he's got nothing. I mean, like he's got to take off, But that's also, I hate to keep hammering this, man, but that also goes back to having a mobile, like that's the point. Like if you don't, if something collapses, you can still make something out of it. You can get some yards. You can, when a play falls apart, I'm not saying that, nobody's saying that, Matt sucks and get rid of Matt. That's not it. It's just saying that when Matt is gone, like that's kind of what, we would kind of like to see here. Cause I mean, that's like Adam said, I mean, that's the direction the league's going as far as quarterbacks. And like, talking about Pickett, I mean, I've seen mocks where he goes to Denver, but that they may fall in love with him and go there. But I don't know. I mean, it's like, and then of course Ritter from Cincinnati had a good year, 4-year starter. He came back to school because he wanted to improve, like a lot of these guys. I mean, Pickett was the same way. I think last year both they were projected 4th to 6th round last year. Now this year they're going to be obviously possibly first, 2nd, 3rd. Yeah. So definitely made themselves some money coming back.
Teams are stupid. Somebody's going to take one of these quarterbacks.
Exactly.
Teams are dumb, and that's good for me because that means somebody's going to fall to the second round. So that's great.
Exactly.
Somebody said that an executive said that one might go in the top 10. I'm praying to sweet baby Jesus that it's not us.
No.
But if one does go between picks 1 and 7, that just means probably Kyle Hamilton or somebody's going to fall to us, and that's great for me.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. And with Malik, man, that was some of the funnest film I've watched in a while. I mean, like He's got shades of Vic. He's not Vic. He's got shades of Vic in him. He's got a, like you said, I mean, just rifle for an arm, which sometimes he needs to pull back a little bit because he was
Yep.
he was like eating his hand. He was eating his receivers up with some of the throws. But I mean, like, yeah, some of the rollouts and arm angle remind me of Mahomes looking at him. I mean, like, just side arming things. And he actually went to Westlake High School here in Atlanta. And his senior year, he went to Roswell High School, which also Atlanta, went to the state championship game. And then he was recruited as an athlete first, actually, and signed on early with Virginia Tech. And then Auburn came in really, really late with an offer for him to play quarterback, and that was just like too much for him to actually, because he had signed on with Virginia Tech to play corner, actually, to be
really?
a DB. Yeah, he was supposed to be a DB going to Virginia Tech. Yeah, and so Auburn came in late, made the offer for a quarterback, and so he went there. And then Bo Nix was there, sat behind Bo Nix, then went with Hugh Freeze over to Liberty. Problem with Liberty is it's Liberty, nothing wrong with Liberty, but like it's the talent around it. You could see with, like, I watched the Ole Miss game. He's running for his life because these offensive linemen can't block SEC defensive linemen and edges and linebackers.
I mean, Ole Miss got Sam Williams too. Like, Sam Williams, a goddamn freak.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I mean, now granted, he used his legs a lot. I mean, that game was over. I mean, they were getting hammered early, but watching him, the windows he can fit it into. I mean, like, that you don't think anybody, I mean, it's crazy watching some of the windows that dude can throw it into. But I think, and like you said, like, he didn't develop this year like I kind of hoped he would, but like I do think a lot of it was him having, like, believing that he had to do a lot himself to more than he probably needed to. Like, if he had equal talent around him, I think he can probably reel it back in and just do his job and play a little bit more of a kind of a dialed down version of himself, which, like I said, with Liberty, though, the way he had to run that offense, I mean, he was one read, take off. if it wasn't there, I mean, it was not a whole lot going on. But like I said, the ceiling on him, man, like you said, developmental guy. I mean, to get between the ears from Matt for a year or two would be ridiculous. To have, the ceiling would be high on him.
I agree. I definitely agree.
The only thing was, and this is just selfishly here in Atlanta, the first like bad throw Matt makes, everybody be clear, like, all right, it's time for Malik. Let's just put him in. So
that's exactly it. Yeah,
that would be like immediately. But so, and then like, Corral, I mean, or Coral, I don't know, Matt Corral, whatever. I've seen him.
People call him Golden Corral, so I just go with Corral. Like,
like you said, I mean, he hell of a leader. I mean, like, I don't know if you saw the video after before the bowl game, like he talked about, he was like, I know, I understand that, what's at stake if I get hurt in the game. He's like, but these guys have helped me be successful, and they're the reason I'm here. So, like, I'm not going to leave them out hanging out to dry, which I respected that. But I also respect guys who they don't want to hurt themselves before they get I understand both sides of it, but I thought that was cool of him to say, and then, in a non title type game, just a Sugar Bowl or whatever. But it was cool. But like you said, though, like his size kind of worries me. He's basically me. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. And I don't think I would be super hyped about getting chased by freaking Jermaine Johnson or something like that in the NFL. I'd be shitting my pants running around, man. So, like, I don't know, like that would worry me a little bit too.
His frame, he carries his frame, like, he's thin, right? Like, like when you said 200 pounds, I know I mean, Malik's
around there, but Malik looks just, I don't know. He just looks.
He's built like a truck. Like, dude,
he looks stalky.
Back man. Wide as hell, man.
Right. Exactly. And the last dude we're going to talk about, and I just started watching this guy recently because nobody that I know watches Western Kentucky, but Bailey Zappi. 6'1", 220. The dude had damn near 6,000 yards this year, 62 touchdowns, 11. Like, I couldn't do this shit on college football on the PlayStation. 69% completion rating, and he only had 17 yards rushing, but he runs a 4.7 40. Found out. Yeah. So, like, he can. And I watched a few games of his. And I mean, dude, pretty damn impressive. I mean, like, pretty good rocket arm. Apparently he's received multiple academic honors throughout his career. He started off his career at Houston Baptist. He went to he's from Texas, went to a pretty I forgot which high school he went to, but in Texas, high school about football is like damn near as big as the NFL.
Anything is,
Yeah, so it's insane. So they were saying in the article that I read that he kind of maybe got overlooked, by some other competing high schools and the players over there. So he didn't get any. He got some interest from Texas A&M, but that didn't come through. Houston Baptist was his only offer, so he goes there, puts up stupid numbers there, and then this year he played as a graduate senior at Western Kentucky. And similar to Carson, was making a lot of the pre-snap reads, was doing a lot of changing the plays at the line when he needed to. Can run, has good velocity. The deep ball can kind of hang up there a little bit. Doesn't have quite a little bit of the zip as you'd like, but they did play Michigan State this year, which he did throw for 488 yards and 3 touchdowns on Michigan State, which, I mean, they weren't pretty fantastic, impressive. But that's still pretty impressive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's just kind of an unknown that could pop. I mean, if he has a good week, I mean, who the hell knows? I mean, like it's
wide open, man. Like any
really
of these guys can take it.
Yeah. I mean, with those numbers, I mean, shit. I mean, whatever. I mean, if he proves that he can do that stuff against, the guys at the Senior Bowl and against that's kind of thing on Malik too. Like this is a big week for him. I mean, these are a lot more talented guys around him this week than there has been at his college. So
yeah, that's exactly it. Seeing if you can play like up with these speed guys. And I know you said so. I personally didn't watch this guy too much. My one of the guys that studied film with Hunter. He's our QB guy, so I lean on him for a lot of his stuff. So actually preparing for the show, other than Sam Howell and Malik, who I knew a lot of, and Carson just in passing when I was watching defense players, I asked him a bunch of questions about it, and he likes Zappe a lot. I think he's like rated like a 4th or 5th rounder now.
Yeah,
but like I've seen tweets from the Senior Bowl saying that he's been one of the more consistent quarterbacks. Like he's not good, but he's not terrible. Yeah. Whereas guys are fluctuating throughout the whole thing. So he's constantly a 5, where other guys are one day a 2, next day an 8. Kind of, you know what I mean? He's been consistent. So yeah, I mean, you could probably see a developmental trait with him. Anytime you pass for that many yards, that many TDs, and have damn near 70% completion percentage, somebody's going to take a chance on you, man. I mean, like that's the reality of it. And I haven't seen him in passing yet, but my boy, he likes him a lot, and I trust his QB vals.
Yeah. I literally had watched 0 of him until this week. I mean, that was the first time I watched anything with him, and I was pretty impressed. I mean, like we said, when we go back to it, like I said, I mean, depending on the edge rusher situation and what's going on there on day 2, I don't think we take one of these guys day 2. I mean, like you said, like 3rd round, 4th round, something like that. I'm down if that's the case, but and if we don't take any quarterback this year, I mean, next year's class looks to be pretty solid depending on where we draft. I mean, pretty decent next year. So interesting guys.
Kid from your school, kid from my school. I'm OSU.
Yeah, they're decent.
Fan.
Yeah, they're okay.
OSU fan. Yeah. So those guys can sling the ball a little bit. Though, like they were saying, scouts were saying like either one of those guys would be the first pick in this draft. Like if obviously Trevor Lawrence wasn't there. Yeah. But in that situation, like if Houston was picking first, like one of those guys would be the first pick.
Oh yeah.
And I truly believe that. I love what Bryce is doing, and CJ's going to do something this year because Michigan was just dogging him at the Heisman ceremony. Yep. So he's just going to.
Yeah, he did not appreciate that. Yeah,
he's going to go crazy. I think like he went into that Rose Bowl and he was burning, man.
Yeah.
I think he tossed, damn near 600 yards and 6 TDs. So
that was an amazing
that's
game.
What I'm getting all next year. Like I'm in. I'm going to every single game.
Oh yeah. One of my good buddies he's from Ohio, and he's a gigantic Ohio State fan, and he texts me during the Heisman ceremony. He's like, "These motherfuckers, man." He's like, "They don't even know what they're doing, man." He's like, "They're gonna come back next year. It needs to be so." And I mean,
he fucking started it at the damn Rose Bowl, man. So if that's what he's doing, like, let's ride.
That was a hell of a game, man. That was a hell of a game. That was fun.
Yeah, I have nothing. It's funny. One of my really good buddies. He's from Utah, obviously a huge Utah fan. Mm-hmm. So how often do we play each other, right? So we're kind of like giving each other back and forth.
Yeah.
And it was probably it was probably up there with the Georgia Bama game. It was probably one of the funnest football games this year.
100%.
And it was just a treat to watch. I was supposed to work that day. I ended up getting off. I'm like, this is fate. This is going to be a great game.
Yeah,
and it
definitely.
ended up being
Yeah, man.
awesome. Right?
It lived up to it for sure.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I guess we pretty much covered those QBs, man. We'll go ahead and close out the show. You guys can reach us or reach Out of Your Falcon Mind. You can email us, just like Bryce did. I don't know who knows what Bryce that was, but we can maybe he was checking on next year's stock. Yeah, no, man, you can email us at atlfalconfancast@gmail.com. We're on Twitter at Out of Your Effing Mind, just FN Mind. On Instagram, Out of Your Falcon Mind, which we post a little bit on there. But yeah, reach out to us. You can follow us, like I said, on Twitter. Hit us up anytime for show ideas or thoughts, stuff you think we're crazy or whatever. I mean, like it's cool. We don't get butthurt by it. We'll talk about it. So it's all good.
Nice.
Yeah, man. Adam, tell them where everybody can follow you and reach you at.
Yeah, so I do. I feel like I'm like right now it's Senior Bowl time. I feel like I'm doing a lot everywhere, but my main stuff is on Around the Block Falcons, and we have our own Falcons Nest pod. That's ran by a bunch of us, a bunch of co-hosts there. But I contribute to those two, and I'm doing a bunch of draft stuff. So I run routine spaces all the time on my Twitter. I record them so people can watch later listen later. They're really good. A lot of draft stuff in there, a lot of off-season talk. It's just, I like to keep it free, and we keep everybody's opinion important. I feel like we as fans, we don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? So exactly. Me and you, we're just we're doing what we love. We love watching football, so we just watch a little bit more. Yeah. So I just keep my opinion. I check out other people's opinions, and then I think of it, and I credit that person. This person comes on, talks to me, says all this fun stuff. So I'm I keep it free on my page, and my own personal page is at Damski32, DAMSKI, and you can check me on there, man. We do some fun stuff. The Spaces is great, like for interaction with everybody. I love anybody can pop in, ask me a question, or even just come and shoot the shit with us. Yeah. We're a lovable group, so just jump on in. And John, like anytime you see that little Twitter Spaces, jump on in and man, come talk.
Yeah, well, man, I definitely will. Yeah, because I saw the day I was working. That's what's been the problem. So like this whole Senior Bowl is causing my work just to go ape shit. I work from home, and like, my wife will come by and she's like, "What are you working on?" I'm like, I'm watching a Senior Bowl video, and I'm watching some shit on a quarterback. I've got like Word up. I'm typing out these fucking notes and stuff. And she's like, you don't even get paid for that. I'm like, I know. I don't get paid for that.
Thinking I'm getting paid though, honey. Like I'm in my
maybe one day, maybe somebody will listen and be like, damn, we got to, we never know. But no, she's cool. She's super supportive of it. But yeah, no, it's just funny because I'll listen to the one I couldn't listen live but I listened to the recording. But it was awesome. Y'all went through I guess kind of the senior what's happened so far, some of the edge rushing possibilities, and kind of a little bit of everything today. So it was awesome.
Prospects, Falcon stuff. We kind of bounce around. It's good, man. Like the people that jump in, they're really good draft heavy guys, or they're very Falcons oriented. Like me and Aaron got a really good relationship from Locked On Falcons. Yeah. So we bounce things off one another. Eric Robinson, who's obviously working with ESPN, and then with the Falconaholic, he jumps in too. Just great people, man. Like that's what I mean. That's why I feel welcome there. With the Falcons and in the South. So I'm gonna have to come visit you guys, I guess, sometime.
Oh hell yeah, dude. Come on down. We'll catch a game. Absolutely. Down the freaking Mercedes-Benz. Damn right.
Yeah, and sure. That would be fun.
There's like $2 hot dogs, I'm told. No, yeah. But
you sold me. I might have to book a flight.
But yeah, man, no, seriously. I mean, like Mike and I, when we started this in October, so Mike is like ancient. Like he had no social media at all, and so when we started this, and like I had Twitter and everything, and I was, I wasn't very active with it, but then like jumping into Falcons Twitter when we did, which can be a hell of a place to be, because there's some insane takes and just all over the board and whatever. But
you gotta be careful in there, man.
You really do. But I mean, we look for, try to find like your account and like, the Falcoholic, of course, and Aaron's account, and Eric's, follow him, just get around people because like we're open-minded as hell. Like, and I mean, I don't ever think that this is it. Like, and I'm gonna.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like you could maybe convince me otherwise. And that's great if you can, because I'm all for it. Like I'm just learning more about it. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same deal. We just want to reach out and like support other podcasts, because we're all Falcons fans. We're all just having fun talking about loving it. So that's kind of what we wanted to do. And so we'll definitely have you back on, man, because this has been great. Sure. I mean, it's too bad Mike wasn't here, but he can be on the next one, and whatever that is. But
sure.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, again, you can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes. You can watch us on YouTube. We're going to start doing these things live pretty soon. I don't know exactly when. I got to get the mic on that, but we are going to start streaming these things live. So it's a little bit, once we have a better, right now, our schedule is kind of all over the board, but we're going to nail down like a date and time so we can tell you guys like when we're going to be available and when to plan to watch for it. So we'll do that when we get closer probably to the season, but we'll see. Maybe before then. But yeah, and if you listen on iTunes or Spotify, drop us a 5-star review. Greatly appreciate it. Just helps us get more visible out there in the community, and helps us move up the ladder of those podcasts. So anyway, guys, appreciate you listening to this one with Adam Damski, and we will be back probably next week talking about, man, I don't know, probably running backs, receivers. We'll hit another group, and I will spend more time doing that than working, and we will have more fun. So catch you guys next week. Adam, again, man, appreciate you joining us, man. It's been awesome.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man. All right, guys, we're out.